There's a morning I still think about. Same pond, same lure, same corner by the drowned willow where the bass always sat. One day the water boiled. Fish on nearly every cast, hand-sized bluegills stealing the bait before the bass could get to it. A 5-pounder that straightened my hook. I went back the next morning, 12 hours later, everything the same. And that pond was dead. Not slow, dead. Same water, same sun, same corner. Flat blue sky overhead and not a tap all morning. For years I blamed myself. Wrong lure, wrong retrieve. Spooked them the day before. It took an old man on the bank, a fellow who'd fished that pond 50 years, to set me straight. He didn't ask what I threw. He asked one thing. Which way was the needle moving? And that question changed how I fished for good. If you've ever had 2 mornings back-to-back that made no sense, the same spot turning on and then flat shutting off, this is the video that explains it. Give me 20 minutes, and I'll show you what that old man knew. First, the rule the old-timers passed down, then the biology underneath it, the real reason it works. Do me a favor and subscribe before we get into it. This channel is where the old watercraft meets the science behind it, and I put these out slow and steady all season. So here's the rule, plain as they used to say it. The fish bite hardest right before the storm rolls in. Grandpa knew it. Every old-timer on every dock knew it. They'd look at a sky that hadn't turned yet, feel something in their knees and say, "We better get out there, it's fixing to blow." And they'd load the cooler while the water was still glass. Half the time, they were right before the first cloud showed. Now, a lot of folks hear that and figure it's superstition, the same bin as spitting on your bait or never bringing a banana in the boat. It isn't. There's a real machine underneath it, and once you see the machine, you stop guessing and start planning your trips around it. The machine is air pressure. The weight of the whole sky pressing down on the water. We measure it in inches of mercury, and a normal, settled day runs right around 29.9. When a storm system is coming, that number falls. When the storm has passed and clear, cold air moves in behind it, that number climbs. The fish feel that change. And here's the part that matters. They feel it long before you do. Hours before the sky gives you a single hint. How does a fish feel the weather? Most bony fish carry a small, gas-filled sac inside them called the swim bladder. Its whole job is buoyancy. The fish adds or bleeds off a little gas so it can hang at whatever depth it wants without sinking or floating up, the way a diver works a buoyancy vest. That sac is sensitive. When the air pressure drops, there's less weight pressing down on the water and on that little bladder, so it wants to expand. Picture the way your ears feel when an airplane climbs, or when you drive fast down a tall mountain grade. That stuffed up, off-balance feeling. That's a pressure change working on the air spaces in your head. Biologists believe a falling barometer works on a fish somewhere in that same neighborhood. The bladder swells a touch, the fish feels it, and it knows something is coming. Now, I'll be straight with you, because this channel doesn't sell you certainty nobody actually has. The swim bladder idea is the leading explanation, not a closed case. Some fisheries folks will point out that a fish moving up or down just a few feet in the water column goes through a bigger pressure swing than a whole passing storm system puts on the surface. So the pure, swollen bladder story probably isn't the entire truth. But whatever the exact wiring, the behavior on the water is real and repeatable, and every guide who lives by the barometer will tell you the same. So let's talk about the behavior, because that's what fills the live well. Start with the falling barometer, the golden window. A front is still hours out. The needle starts easing down. To the fish, that's an alarm clock. Feeding is about to get hard, so the smart move is to eat now, while eating is easy. Bait fish get restless and move. The predators know it. Bass, walleye, crappie, catfish, they slide up out of the deep holes, push toward the shallows and the edges, and they get aggressive. This is the feed up before the storm window, and it can be the best 2 or 3 hours of the whole month. I've watched it turn on like somebody flipped a switch. A slow, sleepy summer afternoon, nothing moving, and then a line of dark cloud shows on the western horizon, and the water just comes alive. Shad flicking on top, a bass blowing up on them 40 feet out. That's not luck. That's the barometer talking, and the fish heard it before you did. When you get that window, fish it hard and fish it fast. This is not the day for a slow, patient presentation. The fish want to chase. Speed up. Reach for a moving bait, a crankbait, a spinnerbait, a lipless crank you can burn just under the surface. Cover water. Hit every point, every laydown, every current seam you can reach. The fish are up, they're roaming, and they're in a hurry. Match that mood. You've got a short window, and you don't want to waste it dead sticking a worm on the bottom. Now the hard part, and the answer to that dead second morning I told you about. The front comes through. It rains, it blows, maybe it thunders, and then it clears off into what we all call a bluebird day. High, thin, gorgeous blue sky, cool, crisp air, the kind of morning that looks perfect in every way a fishing morning is supposed to look. And the fishing is miserable. Every one of us has lived that day. You wake up to the prettiest sky of the week. You drive to the lake grinning, and you can't buy a bite. It feels personal. It isn't. Behind that clear sky is a big dome of high pressure, and it moved in fast. The barometer that was falling yesterday is now climbing hard, up past 30 inches. The fish went from a swollen, restless bladder to a squeezed one in the space of a day, and they do not like it. So they do what's comfortable. They pull down deep and they tuck in tight. Tight to a brush pile, tight to a dock post, buried in the thickest cover they can find, glued to the bottom. And they quit chasing. A bait has to about hit them on the nose before they'll bother. That fast rise in pressure right behind a front is the single toughest condition in freshwater fishing. And it's why the prettiest days so often give up the fewest fish. Old-timers had a saying for it. Fish don't bite on a bluebird-sky. They were reading the barometer without ever owning one. They didn't know the number. They knew the pattern. Clear, crisp morning after a storm means a hard day, so either sleep in or fish slow and deep and expect to grind. Which is exactly what you do if you get stuck fishing a post-front bluebird day. You flip the whole game around from the falling barometer plan. Slow way down. Go deep, down to where the fish pulled back to. Get right into the heavy cover and pick it apart, because they won't come to you. You have to go put it in front of them. Downsize. A big flashy bait that crushed them yesterday will get ignored today, so shrink it. A smaller, quieter, more natural presentation. Finesse worm. A small jig worked slow. A downsized soft plastic dragged along the bottom an inch at a time. Patience is the whole game. You are prying reluctant fish out of their comfort zone, one at a time. And how long does that funk last? Usually a day, sometimes 2. Give the system a day or so of steady high pressure, and the fish settle into the new normal, readjust, and start feeding on a regular schedule again. It won't be the frenzy you saw ahead of the front, but it's honest, catchable fishing. That brings us to the third condition, and it's the one nobody gets excited about. Stable pressure. Long stretch of settled weather. The barometer parked right around 29.9 and barely moving for days. No storm coming, none just left. steady. This is your bread and butter fishing. It won't hand you the wild, pre-front bite, but it's dependable, and it rewards a fisherman who knows the water. When the weather isn't dictating anything, the fish fall back on the fundamentals. They feed on their normal schedule, early and late, dawn and dusk, and they hold where the water tells them to hold. On a stable stretch, you win by finding the right structure and fishing your confidence baits well. No weather magic, just clean fishing. Honestly, most of the days you and I fish are stable days, so learning to catch them well matters more than chasing the rare front. Now here's the single most useful thing in this whole video, so lean in. It is not the number on the barometer that matters. It's the direction it's moving, the trend. I've watched folks get lost staring at whether it reads 30.1 or 29.8, hunting for some magic threshold. There isn't one. A fish holding steady at 30.1 for 4 days is calm and settled and feeding fine. That same fish, while the needle is dropping toward 30.1 from higher up, is fired up and eating. Same exact number, completely different fish, because one is steady and the other is falling. Rising, falling, or stable. That's the read. That's the whole thing. Which way is the needle moving and how fast? And you don't need to buy a thing to know it. The barometer lives in the weather app already on your phone. Pull up the hourly pressure or just read the forecast. Storm coming in tonight? Pressure's falling, and the hours right before it land are your golden window. Big, beautiful high moving in behind a front that just cleared? Pressure's rising. Brace for a slow one. Nothing on the map for 3 days? Stable. Fish the fundamentals. That old man on the bank read all of that off his trick knee and the color of the sky. You get to read it off a screen. No excuse not to. Let me put a real week on it, because this is easier to feel than to memorize. Say it's high summer. Monday and Tuesday are hot and dead calm, pressure sitting flat and high. Steady fishing, nothing special. You catch a few early and quit when the sun gets up. Wednesday afternoon, the forecast shows a front pushing in Thursday evening. That's your signal. Thursday, from about noon until that first line of storm cloud arrives, the barometer is sliding down, and those fish will feed like they've got somewhere to be. That's the trip you take off work for. Then, Thursday night, it storms. Friday dawns, bluebird perfect and cruel. Pressure climbing hard, and you either sleep in or you grind slow and deep. By Sunday, it's settled back to stable, and the normal rhythm returns. Same lake, 4 completely different fisheries in 1 week, and the only thing that changed was the direction of the needle. Let me talk species for a minute, because the pattern is universal, but the details shift. Largemouth bass show it about as clearly as any fish that swims. That pre-front feed-up on bass can be the stuff you tell stories about all winter. Post-front, a bass will bury so deep in a brush pile you'd swear the lake was empty. Smallmouth do the same on their rock. Walleye followed the script too. That falling barometer ahead of an evening front, laid over their natural low-light feeding window, can stack up a limit fast. And crappie, our little weather vanes, they'll suspend and go bashful the second a high moves in, then chew again once things stabilize. Different fish. Same barometer, same 3 moods, falling, rising, stable. Now I need to stop and say something that matters more than any fish. That pre-front window, the very best bite of the month, sits right in front of a storm. That means lightning is often close behind. No fish that ever lived is worth your life. If you hear thunder, you are already close enough to be struck. and the middle of an open lake in a bass boat is the most exposed place for miles. The rule is simple, and it isn't negotiable. When the sky turns and you hear the first rumble, reel up and get off the water. Get to the truck. That trophy will still be there next front, and there is always a next front. Fish the front edge of that window, the falling barometer, the building clouds, and be gone before the storm actually arrives. That's how you get the best of it and go home safe. So let me pull it all together into something you can actually use before your next trip. A barometer cheat sheet. 1. Check the pressure trend before you go, right there in your weather app. You're reading direction, not a magic number. 2. If it's falling, a front is coming, and this is your golden window. Fish fast, fish moving baits, cover water, target the shallows and the edges, and go hard while it lasts. 3. If it's rising, you're behind a front on a bluebird day, and it'll be tough. Slow down, go deep, get in the heavy cover, downsize your bait, and grind it out with patience. 4. If it's stable, that's normal, steady fishing. Forget the weather angle, fish your fundamentals, work the right structure at dawn and dusk. 5. And this one comes first, ahead of all the rest. If you hear thunder, you're done for the day. Off the water, no exceptions. Learn to read that needle, and you stop being a fisherman who gets lucky and starts being one who shows up on the right morning on purpose. That old man on the bank never owned a fancy thing in his life. He just knew which way the needle was moving, and he was catching fish while the rest of us were making excuses. The weather isn't working against you. It's telling you exactly what to do, every single day, if you'll learn its language. The fish doesn't read the calendar. It reads the water, and it reads the sky pressing down on that water. Learn to read the same things, and you'll never look at a forecast the same way again. Next time you get 2 mornings back to back that make no sense, you'll already know the answer. Which way was the needle moving? If this helped you make sense of a few dead days, do me a kindness and hit subscribe, because there's a lot more old watercraft coming this season, and every bit of it comes with the reason it works. I just want you catching more fish and coming home safe. So watch that needle, respect the thunder, and I'll see you on the water. Tight lines.